All right, I'm going to get started. Hi, I'm Ben. Thank you for joining my session. This is my first talk at a conference. I've given talks at other kinds of events before, but so yeah, kind of nervous actually, but it's really nice to see you all here. My talk today is about building a programmable banking developer community from scratch, and it was part of a collaboration where I was working at OfferZen. I was essentially like a community builder person at OfferZen, and it was in collaboration with Investec, which is a private wealth bank in South Africa. I'm from South Africa. Who here has been to South Africa? I know there's 1, 2, 3. Okay, cool. Yeah. So first of all, let's start off with a quote. If you wish to make an apple pie from scratch, you must first invent the universe. The reason I'm chucking that up there is that I'm talking about making a programmable banking developer community from scratch, but there was like a lot of stuff which that's built on top of. If I go too fast in this talk, I'm really sorry. There's so many slides, and there's like a lot of context which I tried to smash in. But and if the talk ends weirdly early, it's because there's too many slides, and you can come talk to me afterwards if you've got more questions. So yeah, that's me. OfferZen's 100,000 developers. It's Africa's largest tech talent marketplace. Essentially, if you're looking to hire a developer, you can go on OfferZen, and it's vetted developers looking for work in Africa and in Europe. Our mission is to unlock human potential, and we think that developers have the highest impact or the highest chance of doing that. So that's why we focus on creating opportunity, because talent is equally distributed, opportunity is not, and in Africa, there's a lot of space or gaps to be closed in terms of closing the gap between talent and opportunity. We're expanding into Europe, so often people think that Africa needs help, but we in Africa sometimes think the rest of the world needs help. So yeah, we're expanding into Europe. The cool thing about starting companies in Africa is you can spend way less. You can test out your model. You can test if it works, and you can get great engineers. You can build an awesome team, and then you can expand into economies where there's kind of an arbitrage on the cost of doing business. Fun fact, we've got the best swag in the world. We've given out over 50,000 t-shirts. We're very proud of our t-shirts. We've got, I think, 60 of these designs. We do a new design. Every conference we sponsor, we make a new t-shirt for that conference, custom for the conference. We sponsor all the conferences and meetups in South Africa. We've got custom Lego. So a lot of people think we're actually a t-shirt company in South Africa, but yeah, we put a lot of effort into swag. So how do we get to programmable banking? Well, first of all, we started OfferZen, which was a talent company and community for software developers. It was by software developers for software developers. We did a lot of consulting with the community as we were building. We had an open Slack channel where people could come in and say, like, this button's not working, your strategy is stupid, like, we think you're lying, et cetera, et cetera. So, and we ran hackathons, and we ran events, and. We got into universities, and we connected the students with local companies. We rebuilt the entire OfferZen stack just for students so that they could use it for free. So we did like too many experiments. We had a free book club where you could gift books to people. It was like crazy. So yeah, 2017 to 2018, there was a guy called Lo. He came back from New York doing custom app dev. He wanted to start a drone company, and our founder convinced him to start a programmable bank instead. I have no idea how that happened, but so he decided to launch this programmable bank. Lo is a pretty good developer, so he built an entire bank stack in Node. It was like, could do virtual cards, physical cards, card rules. There was a JavaScript engine called root code. There was a payments API, everything. There's basically the whole bank, like programmable API bank stack. And then he tried to get that going in South Africa. So you could like log in and do root code on there, and you could also use APIs. You could run code from your own server. And he got stuck at around 200 developers using the bank with regulations and all that. Like apparently it's actually pretty hard to run a bank other than the tech side. So through doing that, he made a lot of cool connections in the industry, and he launched an insurance platform for developers. And that bank went onto the shelf. Oh yeah, when he launched it, it was number 1 on Product Hunt and Hacker News, so he got like many signups, and we kind of validated that developers really want this, but it's hard to build. So yeah, he pivoted, and he launched off of that and launched the insurance company. And then in 2019, Investec came along. They're a private wealth bank in South Africa. They've got 100,000 clients. They bank accountants, lawyers, doctors. And for the last 40 years, they've been doing that. They help those people to kind of launch businesses, and then some of those businesses IPO. So they're very high touch. You can kind of call your banker anytime, day and night. They'll even deliver you currency to your front door if you want. But they focus on professionals, and they spotted developers as the new professionals, and they were like, we got to get into this market. But developers don't think of Investec as for them. They kind of think of themselves as scrappy, like frugal people that don't need they don't think of themselves as high net worth individuals. And many people who start very valuable companies never think that they're going to do that. So you want to kind of get them early before they start those companies, because often they're locked into their bank. So they approached us and they were like, you're the best dev brand in Africa, or in South Africa at least. How do we attract developers to us? And that's where I went out. So that's generally when I get involved. There's like some crazy idea, and it's like go figure out kind of market research and go to market strategy. So I flew across the country, met one-on-one with 50 developers from OfferZen's platform, asked them, do you want Investec? Basically, like you make it fancy with like questions and stuff, and you kind of ask them what's your pains, but like basically, do you want to bank with Investec? No, it's expensive. I don't need that. I don't need a private banker. Okay. We had in the back of our minds, okay, we've done programmable banking before. We want to get that out there. It's going to create opportunity. It's going to create jobs. People use OfferZen to hire developers. Nice flywheel effect. So we said, like, how about you build programmable banking? We've got it all like spec'd out and built on the shelf over there. You can literally just copy it and launch it. So that's Wayne. He's head of, he made himself Investec head of API. At the time, there wasn't an API. So he quickly made himself Investec head of API, and he launched it at our conference in 2019. And then in January, so we basically announced that we were building programmable banking, but we didn't have a contract or any of that kind of stuff. We just like said we were going to do it. And test the market. We are lean startup junkies, so we just like put stuff out there and see what sticks. Got an amazing response from the developer community and lots of people signing up. We put a sign-up page as well. So in January, we put together a team. On the right-hand side is OfferZen people, and we said, okay, we'll do the build with the community, by the community side of things. And on the left-hand side, we've got like Investec team. So Davina is amazing. She was the champion of the project at Investec, and she really just rallied us all the time. And the rest of the guys, technical side. So bank, you worry about tech. Talent company will worry about building a community around the API. Cool. So Kickoff, we had a dev community and a private bank strategy. We had community team plus a tech team. We had startup energy times corporate energy, and we had all the tools built. You just had to port it over to Investec. Easier said than done, but essentially, Lo was still there running his insurance company. We could call him. He tried to make us not call him, but it was there. We did a few workshops with him, and we got all of these things kind of set up. We were ready to roll, building out the community. Cool. So why did we actually need to build a community? Why not just build the API and put it out there? And this really is like a high-level value at OfferZen, and that's fun. So by doing T-shirts and cool stuff, you just like are cool, and people love you, and they want you to win, and they volunteer their time to help you win, and they believe in your mission, and they see that you're reinvesting in the community and building community. So fun is like, it's fun to have a community. It's fun to, if you're building fintech apps, to share it with someone, to get feedback, to get critical feedback, to see technical deep dives into products. So fun is like, I'm not just putting it there for fun. It's really important. It aligned with our mission to unlock dev potential and create opportunity, which aligns with our business model to place developers in jobs. That aligned with Investec's mission, which is create wealth in South Africa. You get early adopters involved in the product direction. So from day one, you've got people screaming at you, this is shit and it doesn't work, which really helps you to get stuff fixed and to motivate to executives why they need to stop having thought leadership meetings and like sign off on things getting done. It creates that, kind of echoing that, you create an open feedback and discussion arena where anyone can come in and say like, you said it was going to be this when I signed up, now it's that, and you're not delivering on your promises. Like, we literally had those conversations face to face over Zoom calls, which we published in public, like on YouTube. Anyone can go watch it. The CEO of Investec can go watch it. So it created this like pressure to actually deliver. And then the two basic things you get from having a community is like customers actually solve each other's problems. So you've got developer rocks up in the Slack group and he's like, I'm trying to build this thing, and like the API is not working. Another guy jumps in and says, well, you're not doing this or this, or there's a missing semicolon or something in your code. And yeah, I think this is an echo of unlocking dev potential, but empowering devs to build better finance. It's surprising how many devs are in finance that are devs and they don't actually have the power to build better finance. So by creating an API and opening up bank systems, you're saying, okay, it's an open API, you just have to get an Investec account and you can kind of go. So yeah, those are the whys. What is a programmable banking community? I mean, that is open to interpretation. In our case, in a year and a half, what it became was 300 developers who signed up for the program, and they were CTO level, like more senior level. So they were testing this thing out for potential use within their businesses. Like, can we actually build a scalable product on top of this? Some of them were just devs working at like crypto companies or whatever, wanting to build their own personal budgeting apps. But from the baseline, we basically just said, we're starting with people who want to build a hobby app for themselves. And if you solve a problem that you think could scale, that's great, you can do that. We had 50 open source apps and tools, wrappers for the API, full-blown full-stack apps, integrations with Google Sheets, anything you can imagine by the end of it. And we converted that into blog posts. So we had like 65 plus blog posts going out, 50 meetups and hackathons and fireside chats. And we were like very experimental with the events that we ran. And that we didn't market directly to businesses, but the strategy was give devs the power to talk within their business with confidence. Like, I can actually solve this with my personal banking. Why don't we bring the business over to Investec? And we had, I think, 5 to 10 businesses come over. This is a very slow strategy. You've got to do a lot of groundwork. You've got to like really kind of peer pressure into beg and people to show up and to pitch their ideas and to build something. And it takes a long time to get rolling. You got to like make something out of thin air. But I think once you've got that community and you're just known as the place where you go if you want to build bank tech and like you want to get feedback and you want to get access to APIs, you're winning by that time. And then it just starts steamrolling, really. Also, we didn't really get proper buy-in from exec level at the bank. We got like a kind of like, we'll try it buy-in. So that's also this, we had to generate this to show like, this is what you get when you invest in this. Do you want to keep investing? And they are still investing in this idea. So examples of what has been built. I just want to check the time. Cool. So first of all, the platform. They did not build the full platform from the get-go. They built the smallest amount of the platform that they could, which is what we recommended. Because it's one thing to be like a dev who's building it all on Node and who doesn't have to worry about red tape, and a bank with 5,000 employees who it impacts, and sales agents get calls about what is this programmable banking thing. So we started with the smallest piece possible, which was just programmable cards. Essentially ran a piece of JavaScript code every time you paid with your card. You could upload some JavaScript code that would block the transaction or you could ping out from there. So you could like send the card transaction data out to an app. From there, obviously, it was like very limited. So then we motivated, okay, we need an API now. So that was actually an IDE. You can see on the right, it looked kind of like that. When you log into online banking, it gave you an ID and you could type in code. Then we were like, okay, next steps, you need an API. So that was putting pressure on the developers to build an API. So build a safe API, just export data. And they're currently working on payments between bank accounts. So it's a slow process because we kind of like coaxing the bank towards building an API. There is no bank in South Africa that has an open API at the moment. One of the first apps that was built, so the community, like I said, was very limited at the start. You had this one script which you could run every time you swipe a card. That was it. So people got pretty creative. The one app that I like, which I think just exemplifies the creative thinking, was This was just a notification that came to you every time you made a payment. And the notification was basically an emoji. And you could actually tell this thing if it was spot on or if it was off in terms of how you feel about this purchase. So if you're like buying fuel, it should be like a pukey face emoji, basically. And if it's a smiley face, you can be like, no, pukey face emoji. And what was funny about this is it's like the most simple app ever, but there was some pretty intense machine learning under the hood because Jacques wanted to play with, Jacques who built this app, he wanted to play with machine learning. So his presentation at the weekly meetup that week was like, I built this app, it does an emoji, and then it was like 40 minutes of talking about machine learning. So that's like, the community was really about deep dive into tech, and there was like, and we built an app on top of all of that that does banking stuff. This was a more run-of-the-mill thing, and this was when we started running hackathons. We ran hackathons so that people would work together. And this is just like wealth projection. So you can see how soon you're going to run out of money, basically, on a personal basis, how much runway you have. So yeah, more basic like dashboard of your spending, more insightful than just a bank account. This was a card management solution. I don't know if any of you have used Ramp, but it's like a kind of a shitty version of Ramp that these guys built over a weekend, where you could just put rules on your physical cards. You could say like, oh, we can only use this card at what would be the equivalent, so Target or Walmart for you guys, or my husband's card can only spend like $500 this month at Walmart or something. So you could add rules, and you get Slack notifications, that kind of stuff. We wanted people to actually build a bit more stuff that was more dumb, like just integrate this into Google Sheets and do your banking in Sheets. So we actually built this ourselves, which is your whole bank account in a Google Sheet in real time. And this is the kind of things we wanted people to do. And I left in June last year, but they're actually continuing a lot more with this, and they're kind of using GPT-3 inside this to categorize transactions automatically using AI and that kind of stuff. But they're trying to get people to actually build apps inside Google Sheets. All the devs in the community wanted to test out Flutter or React, or they wanted to learn these technologies, so they kept on building full stack apps, which we were like, that's great, but your prototype loop is like massively impacted when you do that. And then just to show the business case, OneCart is an on-demand delivery service, so they do like, I think what DoorDash does here, not actually 100% sure what DoorDash does, but pretty sure it's the same. They essentially like they gave like 100 people corporate cards, and those people, they get in an order from the website, they send the person off to the shop, they buy the stuff, they go to your house, they deliver it to you. I'm not sure if you get this kind of thing happening in America, but in Africa, people like to take chances sometimes, so people would add a chicken or like a Coke to the order because they like, oh, no one's going to know. So that was eating into the margins of the orders, and then they like score a chicken or a Coke off each basket. So that was a massive problem. They only picked that up a month later when they're reconning all the statements. They get all the card statements coming in, they get all the slips coming in, and they have to manually go through it. And with the programmable card, they could essentially, as the person pays, they could go, what is the amount? If it's over the order amount, block the transaction, send a Slack message to the admin. Admin calls the person at the counter, at the checkout counter, says, hey, what's going on? Order amount, the payment amount over the order amount. Sometimes that's actually like not a fraudulent purchase because the prices are different at the shops. Sometimes the person says, oh, let me try again, and suddenly the price is the right price. And you're like, okay, thank you, have a nice day. I don't need to fire you now as well. This is another thing that they had to do, continually fire people. So they could stop firing people all the time and having to replace them. The other two things which they didn't think that of, but that came out of doing this, was they were able to track profits in real time. So they make, this is something they would kind of report every week or something to their marketing team, but now they made a channel for their marketing team. Every time an order was closed, they said this basket made a 25% margin, this basket made a 2% margin, and then the marketing team could pick up the high profit baskets and they could put that into the marketing emails immediately. They could identify the customer and they could kind of promote the more high profit margin items that people were buying. So that's like product market fit in real time in a way. And they could enforce pricing as well. So they had standard pricing across the country. So sometimes you go to a shop and it's like in an expensive neighborhood, so the prices are higher. And but because OneCart is a national company, they could say, hey, this basket should actually be less. And they were just letting those go through previously because they didn't have that real-time ability to intercept the payment and provide support. But now they could call the agent and say, hey, you need to talk to the manager. They need to look at the OneCart pricing, which is probably in a desk somewhere at the back that they received when we sent it out to the 4,000 stores. OneCart, within a year after doing all of this, exited in South Africa for 300 million rand, which is divided by 16. So it helped them to kind of go from a company that had some massive issues that no one was going to buy to exiting pretty quickly after. And that was because Michael saw us at the conference, talked to a different bank for 6 months, expecting and got promised an API, didn't get an API, and then on a weekend he was like, screw this, logged into his Investec account, built a solution that could work on the weekend, gave it to 4 agents on Monday, ran it that week, it worked, and the next week he scaled it, he started scaling it to the rest of the business, and they moved their entire business over to Investec. Okay, how do you do this? Or how do you at least build the community side? This is how I did it. This could also be how you shouldn't do this. So it depends on what kind of scale you want to achieve, I think that's maybe an important point. It depends what you want to achieve. So I'll explain what I wanted to achieve and why I did the things that I did. So I started with an exciting mission. So we're making a community. We want to make programmable banking a reality in South Africa. It's not a thing. There are no APIs in South Africa. It's been tried 5, 10 times before. There's 15 people currently doing it, but there is no API. Like 10 years ago when we built a payments company, we built our own screen scraping to do payments inside the banks. And so this was for our team. It was for the executives to read. It was for every single person joining the community to realize you being a member in the community is helping us do this. And you need to tell us what you think we need to do this. Because without your feedback, we're not going to make it there. So that started. I decided this means every single person who joins, from at least the first person to however many people I thought was necessary, needs a welcoming call. So I would welcome them to the platform, clearly state the mission, say you're responsible for this if you're going to be part of this community, and then actually run through a build with them on that call so that they use the API. And then also send them an awesome welcome swag pack. So they got some cool swag. When they show up to the Zoom call, they're wearing all the cool stuff and everyone feels like they belong. And then onboard them into Slack so that they don't just have a Slack invite which goes into an archive somewhere and you've got 1% conversion rate for reasons unknown. So basically, welcome and forcing call. Yeah, we had an initial build. It was a dumb thing which wasn't even useful. It just did a thing that used the tools. Basically, whenever you swipe your card, it posted a transaction to Slack. That also meant that everyone else in the community was seeing people's transactions. It was simulated transactions, not real transactions. Some people left it on. I did make it part of the tutorial to switch it off. But it got people in the community to see, oh, other people are doing this, so I must do that too. And it also just forced people to realize, okay, I can integrate this to Slack, understand how this all works, understand what the power of this is, without complicating things too much. Yeah, those are generally what a swag pack looks like, and the benefit of that is people post it on social media, and then other developers are like, what's this? I want to be part of that. That looks cool. Yeah, so cool. You've got a nice mission. You've had a nice welcoming call. You've done a silly integration, which seems pointless. But where's the meat of this? So now the meat comes in having a community manager who's dedicated to making this thing happen come hell or high water. And so that's about setting a purpose and a cadence. So our purpose was to get together weekly to discuss the progress of the project and to share our ideas and code with each other. And that was, for a year, I just ran that every week. I was there on a Wednesday. At this time, people knew they could come. Sometimes it was 3 people. Sometimes it was 30 people. And I think, but it's that consistency that matters. And the people, when it's 3 people in a room, then those 2 people become kind of zealots for you. They're like, wow, you're showing up for 2 people. And so it matters, being there. Yeah, so that's what it looked like. It was individuals building on a weekly basis. It was bloody hard to get people to build. They're very busy. They're software developers. I'm sure you all understand being busy. And so I had to actually schedule people. I had to call them and say, hey, we don't have anyone building next week. Can you maybe pitch in here? And I very quickly became overwhelmed going from week to week. So I learned, okay, I need to call people and be like, okay, have you got when can you build? And setting up a schedule of people and having them booked in made a massive difference to my life and to getting like that flow happening. And it was actually a pretty cool time of my life. I had like people booked out 2 months ahead. I had this weekly meetup, and I'd set up all these systems. The content that came into the meetup immediately went online. And everyone was like, how do you do all of this? And I was like, well, I've actually just hooked this all up in a system that it kind of runs, and I just like make sure people show up. And then my job was just following up with people and sometimes helping them, testing out their code, and that kind of stuff. And once some guy canceled 5 minutes before the meeting, or 30 minutes before the meeting, and I had to quickly build my own banking app on the API and pitch it myself. So I was like, we're gonna have a demo, damn it. So I actually built an app which integrates with Telegram. Every time you make a payment, you can send a receipt, and it uploads it to like a receipts thing. So people are like showing me Ramp now, like, oh, you can do this. I was like, oh, I did that, and I understand Ramp's a proper company, and that's like a quick hack, but I was proud. Yeah, so these became very technical as well. Like I said, 10% of the meeting was this was what the thing does, and then 90% of the meeting is this is all the stuff I did under the hood and all the like crazy overpowered tools that I played with. So it was a kind of like a tech learning meeting as more than a banking meeting actually. Yeah, so the problem with those meetings was it was 2 people a week, and there's like, it started being 50 people in the community, 100 people in the community, 30 people in a meetup. And it was only 2 people a week, so I think a lot of people were not feeling like they were actually doing anything in the community. So we decided to split this purpose out into, we're gonna have events where people make stuff for fun, and we're gonna have hackathons where people build tech. So like 50 people can enter the hackathon, they can all build banking stuff. And at the events, what we started doing was totally non-banking related. We started building self-watering plants using Arduinos, and we were like, this is a good way to say explicitly to people, this is about having fun and connecting with people. This is not just about building bank tech. And it's quite fun to convince a bank to buy a whole lot of like Arduinos and water sensors and explain that this is programmable banking. This is what a programmable banking community does. So yeah, we did that online. It got great content from that, from social media and all of that, and people loved it. And it was way more interactive. So everyone's building something in this meeting. Everyone gets stuck. Everyone helps each other. Everyone laughs. Everyone sprays water all over their keyboard. And it's like increased the engagement at the meetups tenfold. And it was a lot of fun. Yeah. Also, then everyone afterwards connects on Slack, and they share their plants as they grow. So this is a great engagement mechanism for continuing the conversation. This is like, that's what keeps me up as a community builder, is like, how do you actually continue the conversation? It's easy to have an event, but how do you like keep it as a growth loop thing? Hackathons, pretty straightforward. We moved that, so from a weekly build, we moved it to a quarterly build cycle. So the first month of the quarter was, so it's 3 meetups a quarter, once a month. The first meetup was around establishing like what the theme is for the quarter, if it's spreadsheet banking, whatever. The second meetup of the quarter is meeting other people and finding a team to build with. And then the third month of the quarter is submitting your hackathon build. And there were prizes, cash prizes, and everyone gets a swag box. So that was much more manageable in terms of building, instead of chasing after people every week and being like, are you going to be there? This is a much easier way to get the building happening. It does mean that the cadence on actually showing stuff built gets like spread out a bit. So there are pros and cons to doing this. The third part of this presentation, or the 7th, I don't know, part of this presentation is using all of this to spread the word. So you have to attract people from outside the community into the community. And we did that. So basically the content creation was just taking what was shown in the community and putting it online in a digestible format. So code demos at meetups became video and blog posts. So it was like video if you want to watch the video, and we sent it off to someone to transcribe the meeting, so you could kind of text search through the meeting if you wanted to find a point that someone spoke about. And also that becomes like SEO content, so pretty good all around. The open source code we put up on repos, but I told people put it on your personal repo, it's your IP. But we did kind of ask people to make everything open source, unless they had a good reason. So But we had a combined repo where it was more of just like an index to everyone else's repo. And we tried some other things in there. We tried to actually have challenges for people to solve and that kind of stuff in that repo. But it was good to have one place where you can go and you can find all the links, you can find all the projects. It's all structured as best as you can structure an open source community. And then, like I said, Swag gives you great social media posts. And in terms of content distribution, so the benefit here is like we're sending this content out to 100,000 developers, and Investec, they were still kind of watching the project before they're pushing it through their channels. It was still a beta project, but eventually it's going to go out to 100,000 professionals. So if I'm a developer, I'm like, I can build a little hobby app over the weekend and I reach 200,000 people. That's pretty great. So helping devs build reputation in South Africa is pretty important. And then obviously OfferZen and Investec, we attract new customers and new community members. I wrote a weekly newsletter. So I would say this is like, John built this and Mary built that this week, and this happened, this is what happened, was said at the meetup, and this is what the product team is up to. So I kind of just wrapped up what all's going on in the community. And I was like, this is how I'm feeling, this is my view outside, just like super personal email each week to people. That also I think makes them feel like they can so people would constantly just ask me if they had a question. It's like breaks that ice. It's like you can ask anything, it's fine. You can even just share your view if you want. So yeah, that was very important, I thought, was to write that weekly newsletter. Community GitLab repo, like I mentioned, and then the content going out through that newsletter and our blog. And obviously then we would share on our social media. And we kind of like found the people at Investec who gave a shit by like putting stuff on social media, and we found out their social media team loved our content. So we didn't get permission to get our stuff posted on their social media. We just, through social media, connected with their team, and they like reposted all of our content. So we reached the Investec base without any official agreement with them about content, or I don't even know how that happens. This is what the repository looks like. Pretty straightforward. It's like an index basically of projects. But I mean, it's like pages and pages and pages of stuff. So the links are at the end of the presentation. You can just search Investec Programmable Banking and GitLab, and I'm sure you'll find it. Each person put together their own kind of GitLab repo for their each personal individual project or group project. So that's what that looked like. I love how this person, I don't know if they stole the name Ziggy, or if we stole the name Ziggy, but this guy is called Ziggy now, which is a zebra. I don't know if you know zebras. And this is what our blog looks like, just to give you an idea of that's what the content looked like on our blog. Yeah, our designers would add like a design element to it, so that was also a bonus being a developer. You're often not doing the design side of things. And that's it for me in terms of how I did things. And then a few thoughts on just high level, like how I thought about going about building a community. Because like when we arrived on day one, my boss at the time was like, okay, I've landed a deal with this bank. You've got like $1 million, go. And you don't have any team members. Like, build a community. So then I was like, okay, shit. So I read I have been building communities for ages. So like there's a whole lot of intuitive stuff I knew how to do, but this is like different. There's now a bank. You need fintech. Like it's not the same. So one thing that I kept on my wall was build an ecosystem that invests in developers' fun, belonging, and growth. So whenever I got stuck or whenever I was not sure, and there was a meeting and there were like some Investec executives saying, oh, we need this, this, and this to happen, then I was like, if we do that, are we investing in developers' fun, belonging, and growth? In my newsletter, I'm like, how much fun is there in this newsletter? Okay, add a picture of what's outside. That's a bit more fun. Am I making people feel like they belong? Am I helping people to understand better what's going on in the product and in this like whole project? That's the growth aspect. So this was like a pretty cool check card for me whenever I got confused or overwhelmed to just go, okay, how do I score on each of these things? Is this thing pure fun? That's fine. At least I know it's pure fun. And when I have to report on OKRs, I'm like, this is a pure fun thing. And my principles are fun, belonging, and growth. If you've got a problem with that, let's discuss it, basically. That was my little shield that I carried around to protect myself from being like community builder, not getting sucked into other people's agendas and priorities. This is a great book written by some Instagram, Facebook employees, and they run a cool community consultancy in New York. I actually had a meeting with them. Pretty straightforward framework for building a community. Light the fire, fan the flames, pass the torch. There's a breakdown of that in the back of the book. I think it's available online as well. There's like certain stages for each phase, or steps, things you need to focus on for each phase. And then you kind of like, once you've got the fire going, once people are talking, then you can like put them out into groups or something, and they'll be fine by themselves. But you don't want to put everyone by themselves before you've kind of started that fire. And then passing the torch meant putting this all in a 60, 100-page playbook, getting someone on board and training them in how to run this community. And then I, over 3 months, handed over to Nick, who's doing an amazing job, doing things that I hadn't thought of. And yeah, he's just bringing like the next level element to this community. And yeah, to be honest, I was a little bit burnt out after 18 months of trying to do this thing. Kind of, it felt like I was alone often, and it was. I'd been burnt out before and not passed things over properly. So I was like, okay, this time I need to at least get the handing over properly. And handing over is bloody hard, but there's a pretty good. If you're interested in that, we had a pretty good kind of process for handing things over. 3-phase process. You kind of show the person how to do it, then you get them to do it, and then you let them do it without you watching, and that takes 3 weeks because if it's a weekly thing, because you have to wait a week each time, and there was like 15 processes, so that was a pretty cool experience. And then this is, I call it the value flywheel for community building, but that's just because I had to put a title on the slide. There's a pretty cool guy called Shola Akinlade or something like that. He started Paystack in Nigeria. Paystack has been acquired by Stripe. They're basically our Stripe in Africa. And they've just expanded into South Africa. So they're basically our Stripe for Africa. And in his talk, he essentially said, we focus on 3 things. We focus on community, product, and content. And so you build product, and then you let the community play with your product, and you create content from what the community does. And the content is also then creates feedback, which goes into product development. Once you get this thing going, it's kind of this amazing little loop which just builds on itself. So that was another thing I kept up on my wall. And I was like, are we actually winning in content? I would get obsessed with community because that was like my main focus. So this helped me to get out of that fun, belonging, and growth thing, and also zoom out and be like, okay, but there's also product, there's also content. I also have to help the team win. So that helped me see the bigger picture. Some links. I don't know where you find my presentation, but you can email me, benblaine@gmail.com, BLAINE, if you want to find my presentation. Otherwise, I'm sure they're going to share it somewhere, or get me on Slack. And then if you want to chat, if you've got questions about this, like building a community, building programmable banking, I'm looking for advice. I'm trying to do my own ideas now for like on my own 2 feet kind of thing. So if you've founded something, or especially if you've made the transition to employee to founder, and you got some some wisdom to share with me, I'd love to hear that. If you're interested in investing in African startups, I've just made my first investment in a startup in South Africa that's teaching kids to code through social learning experiences. So I'm getting into that. So if you want to chat about that, we can do that. If you're looking for talent in Middle Earth, which is that blue part, that's what we call our time zone. It is, yes, a Lord of the Rings dig. Then we do that, or I can hook you up with OfferZen. And yeah, you can contact me. That's my other email address. Yeah, or Benji Blaine on Twitter. And if you know who owns Ben Blaine on Twitter, then also like to know that. Yeah, thank you, Nkosi. Cool. I copied a Facebook hackathon like verbatim. I copied their thing and pasted it and then changed it all to Investec OfferZen. So that's what I did the first time. They actually ran that as a 2-day event, and this was like a 3-month decentralized hackathon. So I realized everything that was wrong with doing it that way during those 3 months. So that's why after doing that once, we have the 3-phase thing. You show the builds in the first month. Then you show the second month is about connecting people into teams. It's just ideation teams. You don't have to work in that team for your hackathon, but it connects people and gives them an idea. A lot of the time, people are just busy and they don't have time to think of an idea. They just need any idea to build. They just want to build something and get it up there. It's about building and like the most valuable thing is meeting someone who you build a company with or something like that. So yeah, that was it. So I just basically repeated what I said in the thing. So if you want to talk more about that and go into the detail, I can share the details of that with you. Yeah.
How big of a region are you covering when you're building out specifically for Investec? Is this something you were doing just in South Africa?
Yeah. So Investec actually has a full PSD2 API in Europe. They're listed in the UK. No one was using it. So this is the reason why we could help motivate them to build a community. No one had actually done an API call. They had spent millions building it. And there are no APIs in South Africa for banking, basically. Maybe some behind closed doors, but there's no open APIs. So yeah, it only works in South Africa. I'm not sure if it will expand further than that, but yeah. Cool. Have a good day, everyone. Thanks.